How to understand the newspaper stock section. If you're listening to this on a podcast, I'd advise you to go see this. So it'll help you make a lot more sense. Just go to freeinvestinglessons.com, and this video is the third one in part 6. freeinvestinglessons.com. Many of us have felt the stock market tables in the business section of the newspaper seem to be written in a foreign language, or at the very least, a code, with rows and rows of numbers headed by titles such as last sale, percent yield, PE ratio, share indexes, and so on. The good news is that you really don't need a degree to understand these terms. Just a little patience and a little help translating, which we'll do right now. After all, you don't need to know absolutely everything to get started. You can learn more as you go along. Just start with the basics and take your time. Information about a company's shares is listed something like this. Makeshift Construction is a fictitious name, but the numbers presented are for an actual company listed on an exchange. We will use Makeshift Construction as an example to help decode the columns of numbers. In the column headed Last Sale for Makeshift Construction is the number 4.20. This means that each Makeshift Construction share is currently worth $4.20. And the value in the column in the next column, which is labeled plus or minus, is plus 8. This tells you that the share value increased by 8 cents over the last sale in the previous trading day. The column labeled number sold tells you how many shares were sold during the previous day. The value for this column for Makeshift Construction is 3422. Since it is presented in units of 100, the actual turnover for the previous day was 342,200 shares. The year's range, sometimes labeled as 52-week high-low, shows you the highest and lowest share prices achieved by the stock over the previous year. Makeshift Construction traded in the range $2.18 to $4.27. If you had bought at $2.18, you would have a nice profit if you sold right now. Percent yield, or dividend yield percent, is a measure of the return to shareholders on their investment. It is calculated by dividing the dividend earned by each share by the latest share price and multiplying by 100. You don't really need to know that. Basically, just look at this as a percentage rate like you would a percentage rate of a bank account. Here it is listed as 3.55. That means this stock is basically earning you a percentage rate of 3.55%, which is a high yield bank account. And note that is extremely low for the stock market on average. The last value in most market tables is the PE ratio, price to earnings ratio. This is the ratio of the share price to its earnings per share. A high PE ratio indicates that the share price is high relative to its current earning power, possibly indicating that the stock is overvalued and that a market adjustment or a rapid fall in price might be expected. Alternatively, it might indicate that the company has good prospects for growth, so investors are prepared to put up with low earnings for now in the expectation that these will increase in the future. And if you don't know exactly what to do when looking at this number, what you would do is research the company more, look at its history, how the company is formed, its assets and liabilities, and of course, always contact your full-service stockbroker and talk to them about it. Most indicators of company performance are best viewed over time, so that trends in performance become evident. For example, while the div yield percent for makeshift construction is quite low at the moment, it may be moving upwards, but the only way to tell is to look at its timeline and try to identify a trend. Go to www.stockinvestingprofits.com for a free physical 7-part stock investing kit for beginners that will be shipped out to you. Stockinvestingprofits.com.